it is the 2nd of June, I would say. It definitely is the 2nd of June. And this video of me reading 6 books in 6 days. I don't think you're meant to do them like all at once, but I didn't want to do that. So I did not. Didn't even pick like long books. These are just short books that I probably could have read in one day, but I am in a bit of a reading slump. I haven't really been picking anything up. So I think like some short, easy books that I've been meaning to read or like have interest in, like just to fly through some in 6 days will be an easy way to kind of get myself back into reading. Plus also like I'm not reading them all at the same time. They're going to be like over maybe 2-3 weeks. I've already read all of them, so this is me saying this in hindsight. This is just sort of an upbeat way for me to get back on track with some of my reading goals. Plus I just thought I'd make a video to document all of the books that I wanted to read and hopefully get out of the slump, because I'm like 10 books behind on my reading goals and I don't want to be. I don't care if they're short books, they're books, and they were books that were already on my to read on Goodreads anyway, so like it's not as if I'm making shit up to just pad out my like reading stats. I wanted to read these and I want to get back into reading. So this is the sequel to Psalm of the Wild Bill, and I do think I prefer the first book. However, I do think some of the general comments I'd seen about this book were a bit lower than the first one, so I went in with, you know, decreased expectations and therefore was pleasantly surprised by this. I'm somebody who's easily influenced by the popular opinion of people I respect, but I definitely liked Psalm of the Wild Bill enough to definitely read the next book, so this is what I'm doing now. I like finished the book and I liked learning more about sibling Dex, who is the protagonist, and I think that the world forms more cohesively in my mind now, and I think the world's economic system, religion and governance was such a breath of fresh air. I've spent my whole life reading and watching dystopias, and as a child of the 2000s it was so cool to see an interesting utopia. It really opened me up to something I'd never really regarded as much. Plus I think religion being so central to the story was also very intriguing, because someone being peaceful and non-magical was also being reigned over by religion. You know, monks being something that persisted into a new scientific world, one where people have let robots remain free. It's obviously a draw for this story, but that doesn't make it any less interesting, even after finishing this novella. Like, I really highly respect this book, and I can't have asked it to do more than it does. I think the contemplations of worth and death, like, in this book are passages that I won't ever be able to forget. It's a very cool book, and I highly recommend you read this. So basically I read Sheets a long time ago, and then Delicates quite recently, and I will read Lights, which is the last of that sort of series, when Halloween time comes around. But this is the book that actually got me interested in Brenna Thumler's work originally. So I watched Anne with an E a very long time ago now, to be honest. It's probably like 5-6 years ago. And post the show ending, I've never actually attempted to read or watch anything related to Anne of Green Gables. I've not really given thought to the further stories or even to sort of relive their teen lives through the books. But this book I think was very beautifully written and very beautifully, like, you know, it was just great. It's beautiful. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous book. And it was very touching. It's a great retelling of the story. So I wanted to get within that. And whilst the heartwarming aura this book like exudes, it's lovely. The art is what brings the book alive for me and what brought me here, as well as my library finally having a copy of this book. You know, I just think this book is just really, really pretty, and I will put some pictures of this book here because it is very, very gorgeous. So I kept seeing this book in my favourite bookstore, like everywhere, and so I finally decided it was time to read it. I think it's a very like fascinating and terse story about family, so you learn so much quickly. Like, I've already read it, I forgot to say that, but yeah, I think it's a very like tight masterclass in short fiction. Like, family is always a theme that will have me on hook, and this is from a child's perspective, so I'm even more attuned to what it has to say. I think the thoughts of a child filtered through adult ideas is very like interesting. It has such a deep perspective into the situation. And its atmosphere set by the description is juxtaposed by the naivety and anxiety of the child, which I think only helped to build my own anxious like spirit when reading this and what was going to happen to the main character. I think I will be reading more from Claire Keegan soon, especially if all her work is as powerful as it is digestible. Like, it's a very quick, easy, thorough read, and it's very impactful, at least to me. The abused muse will always deserve their revenge, and I really like Madeline Miller's writing, and I've been in a sort of short story kind of mood that you will see. So I picked this up. Plus the local librarian recommended it, so why not? I really enjoyed Galatea, right? I think it was just enough to seal off the story. It wasn't lacking anything, but it also helped me sort of infer the story. Like, I'm not independently very well versed on random Greek mythology. Like, if it wasn't in Percy Jackson, I don't know it. But piecing together what this was and what the story actually like was trying to tell was quite nice. I'd say that this is quite well written and the book is kind of like a breeze more than anything. I think the story just made me want her next book to not actually be about Hades and Persephone, which I think is what it's about, but something a bit more interesting instead, something fringe and new, a fresh look that I think perhaps only Madeline Miller could give the genre. She, in my opinion, helped to sculpt it into becoming the behemoth it is today. And I really liked this video that came out recently exploring feminist Greek retelling books. I thought that the video had a very good outlook and there were a few decent arguments, even if there were parts that maybe I didn't entirely believe in. But if you also like Greek retellings, I would say go watch this and it will be a good 40 minutes of your day. And maybe this book will be like a good 1 hour of your day too. It's a fun read, especially if you've already read some of Madeline Miller's longer novels. So I decided that soon is like immediately. This was at my local library and it was pretty easy to get, so I picked it up quite happily. And I would say that this follows a man who has been jilted before his wedding, and it follows the day that should have been his wedding day, basically. And the story, I think, in comparison to Foster, is a bit more on the nose and simple than Foster is. It's still very readable. Again, it's only like 50 pages, but it's a little bit looser. It's very well structured and it's clear in the characterization of our protagonist. But I wouldn't say that it wowed me when he sort of like turned up to be a dick, even though at the beginning we're supposed to perhaps sympathize with him. It's an interesting premise, but I think it deserved or needed a bit more oomph for the point to really stick. So obviously I'm reading Serious Concerns because of the orange. Also, I haven't read a funny poem in years, so this was like quite cool to delve into because that's kind of what this collection is. I always think it's interesting when you read a poetry collection and there are some poems that you think are just quite random and or just much worse than the other poems in the collection, that it makes you sort of flinch when you're reading it because you're like, what's going on here? What was the choice? Why was this added in? There is probably a thread that I'm like not seeing, but I can't really wrap my head all the way around it when there is just something that's a bit sort of out of place. Overall, I think Serious Concerns is a very joyous book. It's deeply English though. I do wonder what people who aren't British or understand the culture to an extent think of this collection, or even the direct references to British activities like the addresses to the BBC or the radio or the newspapers that are distinctly both from this country but also from this country like 30 years ago, so like it's like the 90s in England. I think my favourites are The New Regime, Tumps and Pastoral, which all kind of have the very everyday look that the orange has, which I think is what I liked about the orange, which is what probably everyone likes about the orange. So yeah, that was what I liked the most, and I think I will probably read some more of her work. I don't know if I'm going to pick up the one that's like about the orange, like there's a new collection that's bound with the orange in mind as the main poem, which obviously this just has the orange in it, whereas that one has like the orange as the forefront. So I don't know if I'll pick that one up because I assume maybe most of them will come from this collection, but I've got no idea. Maybe I will get it if the library has it, because it's a library book, I didn't buy this. So maybe if the library ever gets that book, I will read it. Otherwise, I'm just not gonna try it because it might just all be in here already. I should be cleaning my room before I make these videos, but I just like don't because I can't be asked. But yeah, thank you for watching this video. I loved making it and I'm definitely kind of out of my slump now. I'm back in the mood. I want to pick up some of Becky Chambers' other books because she is a science fiction writer, so I think maybe that's like the next way in, or there are some books that are like being released recently that I want to kind of pick up. Who knows if I'll do that, but something a bit more science fiction is what I'm in the mood for right now, so hopefully I can get on to doing that. But yeah, thank you for watching. Like the video if you liked it and subscribe if you're really about it. Hope you have a great day and see you next time.